and Best Buys in Texas that have signed a no-cost box pledge, committing to their communities to keep a $40 box on the shelves through the transition. We think this is a great thing, and we urge other retailers throughout the nation to do the same. With that, I'll end and welcome any questions you have, and note that we continue to remain committed to working with the agency through June 12th and afterwards to help consumers navigate the transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, and we welcome back from the Consumer Electronics Retailers Coalition its Executive Director, Chris McLean.
Thank you very much. On behalf of CERC and its members who make up America's favorite places to shop for consumer electronics, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation to the Commission, to the National Telecommunications Information Administration, the White House, and our industry partners for outstanding leadership in an endeavor requiring unprecedented cooperation between government, industry, and the public at large. While it is still too soon for a victory lap, it is not too soon to say thank you to all of those who have worked so long and hard on this transformation of television. And a special thank you to you, Mr. Chairman, for taking full ownership of the DTV transition and the remarkable progress that you have made under your leadership. This has been a multi-year initiative. CERC is very proud to be part of this amazing effort. CERC has been an early and active member of the DTV Transition Coalition, and all CERC members participate in the NTIA DTV Converter Box program. Our members have also enjoyed an excellent working relationship with the FCC and its staff and commissioners on a host of community outreach events all across our country. Now, like a marathon, Wilmington, Western Nebraska, Hawaii, were among the first to complete the race. And in February, a large batch of stations and communities recorded personal bests as they entered into the digital future. And now in the coming days, we'll bring the largest mass of contestants across the finish line. But as in any race, there will be a few stragglers who may take a little extra time to complete the task. And for those who feel like giving up, they just need to ask for help, and they'll make it too. During our last gathering, I was pressed by the chairman about converter box supply. And prior to today's hearing, CERC's counsel, Robert Schwartz, under the protection of attorney-client privilege, polled our membership and provided me with a report of our members' general readiness for the waning days of analog television. From a retail perspective, I have some serious news to report. Some of our members are concerned about converter box supply. They're concerned that they have too many boxes on hand. So we're welcome visitors into our stores. Our shelves are stocked. Buy one for grandma. We're ready and willing and able to serve you. So our supply concerns are fortunately on the plus side. And I am pleased to report that our members feel generally prepared for the final days of analog and the dawn of digital television. Now, for consumers, please do not interpret my general optimism to mean that you should wait till the last minute to make the digital transition. What lies ahead truly is uncharted territory. While I observe no evidence of shortage, it is possible that on any given day and at any given store, the product you want may be out of stock. Just like the 9 shopping days before Christmas, the most popular items will move off of our shelves. And we also know the day after Christmas is an explosion of activity, and we're ready for that. I urge customers not to delay. Visit your favorite consumer electronics retailers while we have plenty of stock and while you have plenty of time. And also get used to using the product because this is a little tricky product to work with. Sometimes you have to have a new remote control to get used to, the rescanning issues. Our members are offering consumers a complete range of options to convert to digital. We have everything from coupon-eligible converter boxes to antennas to the home theater of your dreams. Our members are entering the final stretch with confidence, but we know that the transition will be a challenge, especially to vulnerable populations. I can assure you that all CERC members are working hard to give all consumers a positive shopping experience and to help them find the products they want. Antennas continue to be a very interesting product line for retailers. Demand suggests that consumers have found it necessary to upgrade their gear, and retailers have stocked an array of products despite the fact that antennas have a high rate of return. We do find that consumers take products home and experiment with them. If they seek to bring them back and try a different product, please keep your receipt, keep your packaging, and bring the product back intact so we can get you set up with what you need. There are also some very exciting innovations in antenna technology, but often it is the most basic rabbit ears technology that seems to work very well. For retailers, antenna sales present a difficult training dilemma. The problem is that antenna configuration is highly sensitive to micro issues like TV location within a house, or vegetation around the house, or the topography of the community. But products like, or services like Antenna Web and the antenna tool that the FCC has rolled out, and the new website for DTV transition are tremendously helpful. And I'm hearing through my own email account from consumers that they are using those tools to make their antenna choices, and that's a good thing. So the single most important message I have for consumers as we enter the final stretch for DTV conversion is please do not delay. Our stores are open late, our staff is trained, our shelves are stocked, and we look forward to greeting you in a happy, friendly manner. And in closing, Chairman Copps, Commissioner Adelstein, and McDowell, on behalf of CERC and its members, we thank you very much for your leadership and your partnership, and we look forward to continuing to work with you for the balance of the transition and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I must say, when you said you had serious news there, my heart beat a little bit faster for a minute or two, but I thank you for slowing it down subsequently. Sean Dubravik, economist, Consumer Electronics Association, we welcome you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Copps and Commissioners Adelstein and McDowell, and congratulations to you as well. We look forward to continuing to work with you as well with the FCC staff. Our most recent survey of the market suggests, as you've already heard today, that manufacturers and retailers will continue to meet consumer demand for converter boxes and antennas. CEA represents, as you know, 2,200 members, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and installers. And all of them are working towards the final goal. We are aware of no systemic shortages of converter box. There's been no shortage from the beginning. There is no shortage today, and we don't foresee any shortages through the remainder of the program. Moreover, manufacturers and retailers, in coordination with NTIA and the FCC, have worked diligently to ensure converter box supply has been sufficient to meet consumer demand. While we occasionally hear rumors of box shortages within different geographic markets, phone calls to area stores have each and every time revealed ample supply within the vicinity in question. And of course, consumers remain free to order converter boxes online and by telephone from many NTIA-approved retailers. Manufacturers, installers, retailers, and distributors have done a phenomenal job working in and serving this market, which is both new and temporary in nature. While it's impossible to identify if and where any potential short-term issues may arise, manufacturers and retailers have and will continue to move existing converter box supply to the geographic areas with the highest demand, ensuring that the markets for converter boxes and antennas is sufficiently satisfied. While much focus has been put on the availability of converter boxes, signs continue to suggest that the transition will be successful. First, digital television sets are up 32% year over year through the first 20 weeks of the year. More than 112 million DTV sets have been sold in the United States, including many to exclusively over-the-air households. So the appetite for digital television within this country is very strong. Consumers enjoy the product, and they're taking the steps necessary to bring it into their homes. Second, converter box coupon requests and redemption rates continue to fall. Even after simulated analog cutoffs, there was not a significant rise or spike in coupon requests or redemptions. We saw earlier that it went up to 130 on a daily basis. In December and in January, we had spikes of up to 500,000 in a single day. So now we're talking about spikes which were the norm in December and January. Coupon redemptions for the month of May were the lowest in over a year, going back to April 2008. Moreover, redemption rates for over-the-air homes fell to 43.7% for coupons expiring the week of May 22nd, the lowest since the program began in January of 2008. Third, the number of households estimated to be completely unprepared for the transition continues to decline. As you've heard countless times today, Nielsen estimates this figure at 2.7% of households. That figure likely overstates the actual numbers because it doesn't take into account those that have purchased a box or are in the process of purchasing a box and just haven't hooked it up yet. Fourth, given the temporary nature of the converter box program, there's evidence of the development of a strong secondary market. For example, as of this morning, the search term digital converter box on the popular auction site eBay showed more than 600 items. So there is a strong secondary market that's beginning to appear. And consumers who have purchased a box and have subsequently realized they have no need for the box are looking to donate that box or provide that to somebody else who might need it. Finally, consumer awareness of the digital transition has never been higher. Rising from just 39% in May of 2005, 86% of households were aware of the transition by August of 2008. Today, virtually all households are aware of the approaching television transition and have had more than adequate time to plan accordingly and make any necessary adjustments well in advance of the transition. In short, CEA remains very optimistic that the DTV transition will go down in history as one of the most successful public-private partnerships in our nation's history. While no one can guarantee that 100% of the nation's viewers will have taken the necessary steps to prepare for June 12th, we can say that the vast majority of the nation's television viewers are prepared for the transition. All of the DTV transition stakeholders, many of those who are at the table today, should be immensely proud of the work we have done together over the past several years. In closing, I would like to thank the Commission, the NTIA, Congress, and our friends at NAB and NCTA for working alongside CEA to ensure a seamless and successful transition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And our final panelist is Erica Swanson, who's Deputy and Director of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights and has done a lot of work on the transition. We welcome you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Adelstein, and Commissioner McDowell. It's an honor to be here and perhaps a point of personal relief to be 9 days out from the digital television transition. As others have said this morning, the original February 17th digital television transition date would have left many millions of Americans across the nation in the dark, left out unconnected to their sole source for important weather, emergency, and disaster information. But fortunately, Congress extended that deadline to June 12th, providing 4 additional critical months to improve and fund the coupon program, clear the coupon waiting list, provide support to local organizations that offer community assistance, and significantly raise public awareness and clear consumer confusion. Now that June 12th is upon us, we can safely say that the situation is much better than it would have been in mid-February. But while June 12th marks the national DTV deadline, it neither marks the end of the transition nor the end of our work. That's because despite our best efforts and despite the best efforts of thousands of organizers on the ground around the country, when full power analog signals are turned off, hundreds of thousands of households will likely be left behind. While these people may represent a small percentage of the overall population, they are our nation's most vulnerable members. That's why the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, which is a coalition of 200 civil and human rights organizations, has partnered with national and local organizations to reach and to assist those who are most vulnerable. As Dr. McGuire-Rivera reported earlier today, with the support of the NTIA, LCCREF has coordinated a comprehensive on-the-ground campaign in 7 cities. And yes, that includes a robust coupon exchange program, both in those 7 cities and nationally. Our campaign has been met with tremendous success and tremendous response, surpassing our initial benchmarks, our goals, and reaching far beyond our target audiences. Since mid-November, our local partners have conducted more than 2,500 DTV events. They've conducted that many trainings, and they provided direct assistance to some 150,000 people in need. They've been the real heroes in this fight. In recent weeks, we've stepped up our work. We've taken it into the places where large numbers of people in need gather. That's churches and houses of worship, community and senior centers, sporting events, festivals, libraries, schools, and markets. To give you just one example of what this work looks like, we've brought a short video from our partners in the Twin Cities. I'll look forward to the video.
The Midtown Global Market is seen as this new development on Lake Street in Minneapolis, which is sort of the heart of Minneapolis.
We wanted to push a no-cost box, meaning we wanted to find a local retailer that was willing to provide a converter box for $40, so that folks that couldn't afford to pay more than that could only use their coupon and still be able to get a converter box.
And so we knew on a Friday afternoon we'd get a really good crowd. And then the idea was really to set up an environment where people could do kind of the apply, buy, try model. They could apply for the coupons if they didn't have them. They could actually buy a box, but more importantly, a no-cost box. And then they could try or learn how to connect a converter box to the TV.
I applied for the coupon in September. Then when I went to go use it, my coupon was expired. So when I came down, heard about it on TV this morning. I am retired and money is a little short now, so this helps.
I talked to a lot of folks who were just like, you really took time to reach out to us. You had an event in a place where we felt comfortable. There was one woman who'd taken 3 buses to get here, but she was like, nobody else does things that are bus accessible. I know from talking to some of our other colleagues here that people really appreciated having the different languages, feeling like they could find someone who spoke Lao or Hmong or Somali or Spanish. You know, there is a good and appropriate way to do work that's culturally competent, and people realize that.
So day in and day out, we find that this kind of hands-on assistance, help that is local, help that is language specific, help that is culturally appropriate, is invaluable in reaching those who are the hardest to reach. Yet we know that over-the-air viewers struggle with numerous challenges that include securing converter box coupons, especially if they live at an address that isn't recognized by the coupon system, challenges installing converter boxes, dealing with weak or obstructed signals, navigating antenna needs, and scanning and rescanning for digital signals. These are challenges that are unlikely to disappear without continued assistance, particularly in the days and weeks following the June 12th deadline. Of course, help is currently available, but it will probably need to be strengthened and extended to provide post-transition search and rescue functions. The National Call Center will continue to be a useful resource, but it alone isn't enough. Given the array of technical challenges and cultural barriers, people also need to be offered the option of local assistance resources. This is critical work that is being supported by both NTIA and the FCC contracts, but it is work that, as of now, is currently slated to terminate by mid or end of July, some of it in August. So what will happen next Friday? And most importantly, what will happen in the days and weeks that follows? Well, as many of us have said, we don't necessarily know. There are many, many unknowns because there are a number of changes that are going to take place after the transition. Changes that will impact the reception of digital signals, changes that will impact who is affected by the transition. Some broadcasters are setting up additional translators and transmitters to boost the reach of their signals. Others will be shifting the location on the broadcast tower. So we don't yet know what the full reach of these broadcasters will be or when they'll reach it. There's also the real-world impact of interference, as Mr. Donovan discussed, the full extent of which we won't know until all broadcasters are operating at full strength. And we don't yet know what seasonal weather changes will mean. What will happen, for example, the first time Detroit experiences a major snowstorm, or when Atlanta experiences a severe thunderstorm. In addition, many low-power community broadcasters have not made the transition and may not anytime soon. Finally, as reported both anecdotally and in recent news reports, many of those who have been relying on cable or satellite for their television service are now, given the economic downturn, reconsidering their options, and in many cases are choosing to return to over-the-air television. This means we may find people who will need to make the transition at a much later date and will need assistance in doing so. So in many ways, June 12th is really an end and a beginning. The nation goes digital, but there will still be a tremendous need for the continuation of the FCC call center and for local assistance that can provide real answers in multiple languages to help those who have not yet made the transition, to help them join the rest of the nation in our great technological leap forward. Thank you again for the chance to talk with you about our DTV assistance work. I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you, and thank you all. Mr. Donovan, I think it was you that mentioned how changes in technology can often be very challenging, and this is a particularly sensitive, high-end kind of technology change we're going through here. And I'd just like to talk a little bit about kind of the vagaries of this digital signal, and just from personal experience, we went out, I guess, last fall. We have a little set in our bedroom that's over there and bought a converter box for it. And the picture was much better, and I could receive all of these channels, and the sound was better, and everything was fine all through the winter. And then a couple of weeks ago was springtime, and we turned on the set on a Saturday night to catch Saturday Night Live or something, and the foliage had sprouted in the trees, and the wind was blowing, and there was, for the first time, lots of interference in the set. Now, it wasn't one of these you get it all or you don't get it at all type things. I had a picture, but there were a lot of little distressed pixels moving around and distorting everything. Is it that sensitive that the leaves and the wind could have done that?
It depends on the signal strength, but in some instances, yes. I mean, I for one, for example, not only have over-the-air TV, but you'll also see it in satellite systems during rain fade situations, or if all of a sudden your satellite dishes end up and your tree grows another 5 feet, you may run into the same thing. It is in the nature of digital that it is more susceptible as a general rule to that type of issue. I think it becomes important at that point that where one is either placing their antenna, whether they're going to put it on their roof or where they're going to move it, to try to find a sweet spot to try to reduce that situation. But it is a phenomenon that occurs with digital. And I think where it becomes particularly acute, of course, is sometimes indoors. If you put it in a highly trafficked area, you may run into a similar situation. We have found, and again, we are learning with this new technology, and there are bugs that need to be worked out, and we're in a problem-solving mode. What we've found, for example, is things such as ambient noise, low impulse noise, the classic power grid problem, that it just takes a very little of interference coming in from other sources in particular that raise issues here. So I think we have to be cautious moving forward, and I think there are things that we're going to need to learn. It may be, for example, during a rainstorm, if you have an outdoor antenna, you want to move it up a little bit higher off the roof if you have a metal roof. Those are the kinds of things that we have, candidly learned over 50 years of experience in analog as to how to deal with it, and there are things that we are going to have to learn going forward. Although on balance, I do think that overall the system does work very, very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just think we're all going to have a little bit of patience and be cognizant of the fact that there are some solutions already out there that are going to be deployed in the months just coming up. Right. Jane Mago, let me first of all just refer to the conversation of the previous panel on the analog nightlight, and I know your organization, National Association of Broadcasters, has already worked to encourage this, but any other effort in these final days that you can, and leadership that you can exert from Washington to encourage stations to take part in that so we get all these markets covered with at least one would be a great public service. Let me just ask you what you can tell us about what kind of on-the-scene local help is going to be available in most stations around the country in terms of call center operations or ability to give technical advice and things like that and to respond to the needs of consumers.
Well, first of all, with regard to the nightlight, yes, I will commit that we will be redoubling the efforts, working again with David and with our partners in the state broadcast associations to try to continue to encourage nightlight participation. And in fact, we have been working with the state broadcaster associations. I think we've all told you about our weekly calls where we have a checklist of the activities that stations should be engaging in for this last push, and that includes such things as making sure that you're participating in all the walk-in center activity in your area. You have your calls set up, that you have reminded all of your viewers of the time of day when you are going to be doing your changes. The stations are working together in each of the markets to make sure that they have a very comprehensive approach to dealing with those local calls that they anticipate that are going to come. We are also relying on the FCC's call center to handle a number of the generic type of calls, though on the local level, the stations have set up call banks and are ready with the engineers that are available, and they've been working with the community groups to get folks into the homes to get the sets set up and make sure that everybody's ready.
Thank you. Commissioner Adelstein.
Well, just to follow up on the chairman's discussion of analog nightlight, I sure appreciate your commitment to trying to do everything you can. David, you mentioned that still 5 of the 47 hotspot markets aren't covered. I'm kind of wondering what you think the resistance is. I mean, for those markets that don't have a technical problem, as Eloise said, there's only a handful that technically can't do it. What is it that we can do to inspire those last ones, and what do you think the resistance is? And
Let me address that, because Eloise is right that there were only 2 markets that for interference reasons and for other reasons couldn't do it. But there are, as we go through this list, for example, in Joplin, there are maybe 1 or 2 stations that could do that, but the stations have turned off their analog already on February 17th, so it literally is off. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, how do you get that back on? And then frankly, in some of these instances, the equipment's been sold. So, or frankly was held together with Mighty Putty for the last month or 2, just to nurse it along. So in other instances, I've gotten situations where because you have a common tower, commitments have already been made to take down, that analog antenna. So while in a theoretical sense, Eloise is absolutely right that there are very few state markets where you couldn't have anybody do it. When you start getting out there, and the folks that have already turned off the transmitters, or those that have real technical problems, that number does get reduced. And since a lot of stations are going back to their VHF channels, their old analog channel numbers to begin with, that further reduces the number. So I think in a very practical sense, the number of markets where you may not have a nightlight may be more than that, but this is not to say there are still markets out there that we could do it. And in fact, candidly, I'm waiting for phone calls right now from those markets. And so we're pushing as hard as we can in that situation.
well, let us know if it'd be helpful for us to make phone calls as well.
Understood.
We have phones here, we believe in phones here, and we'll use them. Larry, is public television stepping up on the analog night lights? Are some of them doing it, and can more?
The answer to that is yes. Based upon the data that I've seen, the public television stations are very comparable in terms of their participation in the nightlight program to actually the affiliates of the 4 major networks, notwithstanding the fact that, as this commission knows, they're experiencing some remarkably severe economic conditions. But they are participating and certainly listening to all of you today. I pledge that I will go back and talk with these people at the local stations and see the extent to which it might be fiscally possible to accommodate this. Again, public TV stations, about 60% actually already have terminated analog service. So the percentage of early shutoff of analog is higher, which necessitates that there'll be fewer available to participate in the nightlight service.
Well, thank you for that commitment. Kyle, we certainly appreciate everything cable has done to help out in so many ways. At the same time, we heard some serious charge raised today by Joel Kelsey about some of your members that may be trying to take advantage of the DTV to benefit their own bottom line. I'd like to get your response to that. Are you concerned that there are activities going on that shouldn't be, and what can we do to correct them if so?
Thanks. I mean, there's a little bit of theater involved, which is, particular groups get up every day looking for the gratuitous shot at my industry, and then I'm supposed to reprise my usual role of looking sheepish. But in this instance, I'm not the least bit defensive. I'm not going to argue that there aren't incidents or examples throughout the country in an industry with tens of thousands of customer service reps where they get it perfect every time. But I will say, if you look at the big picture, it's pretty clear. We spent $250 million of an advertising campaign that NCTA sponsored that talked about nothing else except the coupon program and the ability to get a digital converter box. So $250 million, not marketing our services, but an alternative tool for dealing with the transition. We paid millions of dollars to help with a call center, which again was a completely neutral script that laid out all the options. And as I mentioned in my testimony, with your encouragement and the encouragement of members of Congress, all of our operators are actually promoting and marketing a very low cost and in some cases free broadcast basic service. And I don't know about the specific example he raised, but in DC, for all of us who live here, we've been watching print and television ads promoting free broadcast basic if you buy another service, or a very low cost alternative if it's solo. So big picture, I feel like we've stepped up far and beyond the call of duty, but there may be instances, and if somebody wants to bring them to my attention, I'm happy to address them. Our posture throughout this has been that this is a public service, even though it's the broadcaster's transition, we're in it together and we want to help.
That's why I began by appreciating the broader things you did, and certainly as an organization you have stepped up to the plate with major ads. Joel, do you think the incidents you talked about are isolated incidents, or do you think it's a systemic problem?
I think that NCTA in particular deserves to be commended for particularly the call center and contributing to that. And I think that the two key pieces are the ads that we see from particular cable companies in particular markets. We encourage all of them to mention all three possible options. Not only can you subscribe to cable, but also you could buy a new TV. Also, you could take advantage of the coupon program and get a box. And a lot of the ads that we're seeing recently have been just kind of highlighting either a low-cost cable subscription, but then that message isn't necessarily getting through to those call reps. So consumers are calling up and they're not hearing that low-cost option available to them, and instead they're being sold a higher service, a higher cost service that jumps up after the second month. So while we don't take issue with NCTA in particular, it's some of the cable companies throughout the nation that I think our consumers are concerned about, and they're just not seeing what's being promised in the ads being delivered when they call for service, and that's something that we're concerned about.
Any response?
As I said before, we have, and the CEOs I know have issued directives trying to make sure that the customer service reps give accurate, helpful information. If there are specific examples, happy to try to solve the problem.
Great. Well, I hope we can all work together on that and try to resolve any concerns. And thank you for all you've done and all you're doing as well. Consumers Union has been great. We really appreciate that pamphlet. It's fantastic. We unveiled that at NAB. Very helpful. Chris, or should I say Mr. Administrator? Once an administrator, always an administrator, I think. Perhaps. I'm not even once yet, so.
Yeah, soon. Soon, very soon.
If confirmed, as they say. I got a great solution for your problem that you raised today, which is the potential large inventory boxes, which is actually Joel's suggestion, the $40 no-cost box. Can we get more of those available out there throughout the country?
I have to premise my comments that CERC cannot, will not, does not coordinate supply, pricing, product selection. I love my freedom. I do not want to spend any time in a federal institution, but I will note and observe that one of our CERC members is offering a $40 box in their weekly circular. Another CERC member cut price on a product which I bought, which is $5 cheaper now than when I purchased it. And so the marketplace is working, I think, very well. And I think you're going to find a diversity of products, diversity of pricing. Now, every product has its own features. And you're going to see some extraordinary bargains, I think, on TV sets themselves. We have a tendency to believe that DTV sets are very expensive, and we certainly are happy to provide those, but there are an amazing number of entry-level TV sets that provide phenomenal picture, fully digital capable, and I think customers are going to be surprised when they go into the stores to be able to find those products.
Well, good. I certainly will not do anything to wind you up in a federal pen. We need you out there. I know your family needs you, but anything you can do within the scope of the law that that does to remind people of the option of these no-cost boxes. It's a really tremendous thing. Some people in this economy just don't have any extra money to pay for this. And as a government, the idea of the transition and the assistance was to help those people who needed it not have to have a major out-of-pocket or any out-of-pocket expense, preferably. So that is a wonderful development where it is happening, and hopefully we can encourage it legally as many places as possible. Finally, Eric, I just want to thank you for all that LCCR is doing. Fantastic program out there. Have you gotten all the resources from the federal government you need to maximize your efforts in the field?
We've been fortunate to receive generous resources that allow us to work through July 15th. That will allow most of our local partners to conduct work on the ground through about the end of June. The challenge there, of course, is as we've laid out today, we anticipate there will be many, many needs that won't be met by the end of June, that will continue through July, probably through August, perhaps even longer, that we may not even know about, in the real world consequences till June 13th. So there are certainly ways that we could continue our work if funded through the end of July, through August, working with local partners. Again, the National Call Center will be an incredible resource, but we see it as one piece of a very large puzzle. One case in point is the coupon exchange that we have been running. What we know is that there are many households that just are not eligible for a coupon for one reason or another. Perhaps they live in a single residence occupancy, perhaps it's a multifamily dwelling, and the 2 coupons aren't enough to meet the multiple families who live at that one address. And this is a burden that's on the back of these individual consumers as they're faced with purchasing a converter box and many times purchasing an advanced or a newer antenna. And by having local partners who can receive donated coupons and then get those to consumers and households who are really in need, who really need those coupons, and then show them how to redeem them and how to install those converter boxes. We know that in tandem with national efforts like the National Call Center really go that extra mile and help people make that transition.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep it real brief. I only have a couple questions, mainly a few comments. So first of all, wanted to thank everyone here and all the folks behind you, the thousands, tens of thousands who are helping out with this, and thank you all very, very much. And I think, Ms. Swanson, you very eloquently crystallized what happens after June 12th, the search and rescue, and I think that's a very good way of saying it. And it will be, yes, an end of a chapter, but the beginning of a new chapter, and the book won't be completed yet for quite some time. So that's where we're all going to have to maybe have another one of these, believe it or not, after June 12th at some point to find out where we are. So for the 3 here on this end of the table who represent broadcasters of one form or another, one of the issues we're learning more and more about every hour really is the number of stations where there will be lost service. And for the folks watching at home, sometimes the digital footprint, the signal contour of a broadcaster's signal is going to be somewhat different from the analog. So there will be some people who actually lose a signal. And we put out an order a while ago that said if more than 2% of your viewership is going to be dropped, that you needed to be educating your viewers. This came about as a result of our Wilmington experiment on September 8th of last year, when Wilmington, North Carolina became the first market in the country to go all digital. Channel 6 there, and I guess we knew this somewhere here at the FCC, but we didn't know it at the commissioner level. Channel 6 there, their digital footprint was authorized to be about half the size of their analog footprint. And they had been actually bleeding over into a different market area for a while. And consumers weren't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that. And so a plurality of the calls generated to our call center were because they just couldn't receive the signal. They were able to pick up, I think it was an NBC affiliate, is what it was, Channel 6. They were able to pick up that NBC affiliate from another market in some cases, but in some parts of North Carolina, they didn't get any NBC affiliate. So we want to try to avoid that if all possible, but it sounds like with the data I've been hearing in recent days that this sort of signal loss problem is going to be increasing. Can we just kind of go down the line? Jane's pointing to Dave. Start with Dave. Okay.
In a historical context, for nearly a decade, the Commission's allocation structure as it applied to digital was to look at populations served. in terms of does your digital serve the same number of people. What it really never focused on is, are they the same people? And so what you end up having in a lot of instances, in fact in most instances, an actual increase in the number of people being served with digital, but it doesn't address the issue, as you saw in Wilmington, that you actually have people who formerly had analog that may not get an analog in the digital world. The one piece I would add to that is, because if you begin to really look at the maps that are involved, and this certainly isn't universal, but a lot of it involves, particularly in the East Coast, where the service is being lost. What comes to mind immediately is a New Hampshire public television station that had significant amount of viewing in Massachusetts, in fact, south of Boston, near the South Shore. When they reconfigured for digital, they expanded their service area to cover more of the western part of the state of New Hampshire, but lost Massachusetts viewers. Now, in the abstract, that's greater than a 2% loss, and so it causes concern. But the question I think we have to sort of overlay or put a template over that is, where are the viewers that are being lost? So I just, not that that's an answer for every single situation, it certainly isn't, but it's something to at least look at. Long term, things like the translators fill-in service, the DTS, and those other kinds of issues, the things, or increases in power, are issues that we have to look at. When you look at overall increases in power, you do get in a situation to a rob Peter and pay Paul. I may be able to put out my coverage area, but I'm now causing interference further down the road. So I don't know whether there's any one silver bullet to resolve all those problems, and there are sort of economic consequences if you're trying to do a sort of a DTS system that just simply rings around the outer edge of your service area. But I do think that there are things, once we get over the June 12th hump of making sure that most people clearly are able to get service, those are things that we have to look at and develop policies for.
I think it's for people who are observing right now, folks in the press,
Right.
folks, consumer liaisons out in the communities, to understand this, that, you know, people can get a converter box, telephone.
Right.
People can get a converter box, people can get the right antenna, but if there's no signal, they're going to be dropped. And you know, they can do everything they're supposed to do. Everyone's doing everything they're supposed to do in this whole equation, but some consumers are just not going to get broadcasting. And hopefully here at the Commission, we'll work very quickly to try to address that when we can. But as you pointed out, it's a tough situation in that not everyone will be made happy or made whole.
Understood. I do want to emphasize, though, is that the signal loss that we're talking about here, you're dealing in many instances with the outer edge, what has historically been the outer edge of the station's protected contour, i.e., in the parlance, beyond the traditional, in between where the grade B, the analog grade B is, and where your service area is. So you're at the outer edges of the service areas to begin with. I'm not dismissing the importance of those viewers. I think they're exceedingly important. But for folks downtown that live where the majority of the population lives, with rare exceptions, and I think Wilmington was one of them, hopefully I don't expect this to be a huge, huge problem in the areas where most of the population lives. That 2% loss is largely going to be at the outer edges of the contour.
And folks should also keep in mind, this isn't all negative, that the vast majority of viewers will actually be gaining a signal, or certainly gaining
Absolutely.
Channels, new channels,
Absolutely.
and it'll be a much better experience. But we will be hearing from those 2% of the viewers,
Precisely.
who might be left out.
Right.
in
As
some
I
cases.
said, this is we're in the problem-solving mode now, but for the most part, this system is going to provide better service to more people, and that will start on June 12th.
But I think here at the FCC, what we'll need to be doing is to prepare for as quick action as possible to see where we can fill in the holes and make people whole. With
Understood.
WHOLE as
Understood.
possible.
Just to emphasize
yes.
on that point, I do want to emphasize that I think we have to work together to try to fill those holes. This is an evolving process, as David said and as you've said, that looking for solutions that may be a little bit longer term but will provide service to people is one of the priorities that broadcasters have, and I think that we look forward to being able to do that together.
And just to add based upon the experience of public television, I think the most acute potential problem area here is in largely rural states, particularly with mountainous terrain. I can report already that the rules that the Commission has promulgated with regard to translators and replacement gaps have actually enabled Idaho Public Television to line up funding to do 6 translators already, which was not available prior to the rules. So I think, again, working with you and also in the case of public television, working with the Congress, where they have the PTFP program, which would provide explicitly funding for these kind of translators if the program is restored. That's the kind of thing that we can all work collaboratively on to help it mitigate this kind of problem. And people are ready to begin construction.
And you also raise the specter of the translator and LPTV issue that we'll have to address that Ms. Swanson spoke of. But we'll just do one transition at a time this month and get to that one when we have to. Just real quick, Mr. Kelsey, I remember earlier, a couple months ago, I think it was Consumers Union's sort of message to consumers that they should get a coupon before getting a box rather than they could get a coupon if they needed it. Is that still your message, and have you changed that message, especially also given the timing of everything?
Yeah, we think consumers should make their own decision ultimately, and we've tried to make that our consistent message. Absolutely, they should take advantage of the coupon program, especially now that it has additional funding and that it's done a great job in clearing the waiting list and cutting down the wait time from an average 21 days to 9 days, and other modest adjustments that we've been calling for a long time. So we think it's a new coupon program in many ways that is much more responsive to consumer needs. That said, if that wait is just too long for them to go without television, then if they have the ability, they should go out and buy a box. And just one point to add onto a lot of the conversation here is, in many ways, this transition is most expensive for rural consumers. Not only do they have to pay more to get out to the retailer when they do, oftentimes the lower end, or less expensive boxes and antenna aren't available to them. So all of the conversation that we have around making sure that they get the kind of information that they need about signal strength in their area, if it is going to be a problem, if they are going to lose a station, things like that I think are very important so that they don't spend any unneeded money when they're navigating the transition.
I think it's important to point out, and although Dr. McGuire-Rivera didn't say that this was going to happen, that NTIA does have the authority to cut back coupons to make them available only to those who are over-the-air only households, and if that's needed to conserve money in order to fund our phone banks, I would hope that be the case, because maybe that should have been part of it all along. But anyway, yes, Mr. Donovan.
I would add, because I would speak to one of the issues out there, because you are talking about reception outside a protected contour, is the ability to receive particularly small cable systems whose head ends are outside that, and you're in an area where reception is difficult already, but the Commission, candidly, in other proceedings, is contemplating putting other transmitting devices in what, frankly, constitute the white spaces. And as I've said before, the interference issues regarding digital are fairly significant. So it is at least an issue that we all should keep in mind as we go forward.
We can have another hearing on white spaces, I think. So we're chalking up all sorts of things here. So anyway.
I had to bring that in.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to all of our panelists. I think this has been a good meeting. It lasted a while. We're going on to 3 hours here, but I learned some new things. I know probably my colleagues did too, and I think it's great to try to get the word out beyond here, so I thank you all. Before I ask Madam Secretary to announce the next meeting, a couple of you alluded to the fact that our distinguished colleague, Rob McDowell, was announced yesterday. The President intended to nominate him for another term at the FCC, and I think that is great good news. I am personally delighted with that outcome and thank him for the collegial way he has gone about his work here. it's either you or Jonathan came up with the term "three amigos," I think. So, and certainly that's been true with regard to DTV and with regard to many other issues too. So we thank you for that. And speaking of the next meeting, personally, I hope it's the cast characters in July, but there's some indication that maybe it'll be different next time, and depending upon the wishes of the Senate and our friend Jonathan Adelstein. This is not the time for a formal farewell, but if that indeed happens and he is taken from us before July, I just wanted to publicly thank him, and we'll do so more fulsome later on. He's just been a tremendously wonderful colleague. We've fought many battles together. I hope we'll continue to fight battles together wherever we are located in the future, but it has been great working with you, and as I say personally, I still hope you're here next month, but you might not share that wish. Do you have any announcements, either one?
Thank you. I would just echo the thank you for that kind comment, and echo the congratulations to our colleague Rob McDowell, who was a real class act. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, as they say. You know, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and sometimes good things happen to bad people. This time a good thing happened to a good person. And that's what I hear all over town, that people are thrilled to hear the news. I certainly personally feel that way, that Rob's become not only a colleague but a friend, and I think I really respect him so much because we really do share basic philosophy about this place, even if not political persuasion. I don't want to get you in any trouble. But the basic philosophy, which crosses party boundaries, of course, is that we should follow the statute above all else. And remember the first time I was in Rob's office, he was looking up the definition of a word that was in statute. His dictionary was open, and we're trying to figure out what did it mean. Primary, I think, was the word, as I recall. There's a lot of definitions. You know, that's for another hearing when I'm long gone, please. And I think the rest of the philosophy is, you know, that politics doesn't belong here at the FCC, that we're the expert agency and we're going to do what's right by the law, by the facts. The details matter. We need to understand them before making decisions. That fairness is the yardstick by which we are measured, and that we need to listen to all sides and ultimately make a decision on the merits. And it can't hurt to tell a joke or two along the way, which I share this in philosophy. And as the chairman has said, this may be my last meeting up to the Senate. In some ways, I certainly hope so. Other ways, I will miss this place dearly. I counted this morning quickly 79 meetings I've been at here on this dais. And as Rob begins a stretch that may well outlast mine, it's a good reminder that these seats don't belong to any one person. They are a privilege to sit in them for a special period of time. And I know, of course, Rob will conduct himself as he always had, with the dignity and the good humor that having this kind of responsibility entails. And of course, I feel in terms of both of my colleagues that I'm very confident leaving this place in their hands, knowing that they will be here, both outstanding public servants, both people who have been a pleasure to serve with, and we can bring all that we've learned together to bear on these issues, and this commission can continue to function with the wisdom that we've all gained together and with the continuity that both of you will provide, and the great insight and leadership that you have always shown, both of you, throughout my years here. So hopefully we'll have more time to talk about this, but just in this wistful moment, I wanted to reflect on that. And congratulations to you, Rob.
Do you have a comment?
We have a couple of law clerks. But first of all, thank you very much for your kind remarks. I am still in denial that Commissioner Adelstein is leaving the commission, so I have not prepared my eulogy for you yet. But it will, I'm sure, involve something having to do with the recording industry. Maybe we can get, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen, we were talking about that, or somebody to come in and sing a song. But it has been, I'm going to assume this is not your last meeting. So, but in any case, it has been terrific serving with you, and I will elaborate further when the time comes, because you never know. I don't want to get ahead of myself or yourself. But it's bad luck, you know. I'm a superstitious guy of Celtic descent, so. I do have a couple of law clerks, though, real quick, and I know we have to go into this meeting eventually. So first of all, are you guys still here? Yeah, they're awake. Okay. Jonathan Adler, who is here from New York Law School and Brooklyn College, And some of you may recognize him. He worked here at the FCC last summer in the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. And he has been in our office already for a couple weeks and is doing a fantastic job. And look forward to, you're going to have a very eventful summer, it sounds like, with a new chairman coming on board and new commissioners and confirmation hearings and everything. So we're going to work you hard. So welcome aboard. And he's being joined by Robert Samuel, who's at Wake Forest School of Law in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He also has a master's from London School of Economics and a BA from another school in North Carolina called Duke University that I'm somewhat familiar with. Hope that doesn't cause you to break out in hives there, Mr. Chairman, being a North Carolina grad.
I think it's time to adjourn.
But wait a minute. But he has a very interesting resume. He's a filmmaker, among other things, having directed 3 short films at Duke, Shanghai Moon, Revenge of the Nerd, which sounds like you've got a intellectual property issue there with that title, and then The Unfortunate Circumstances Surrounding Daylight Savings Time. I would love to see what that's all about. And was also on he was editor-in-chief of Carpe Noctem, Duke's official humor magazine. So if you run into him here at the Commission, make sure he makes you laugh, okay? Just ask him to make you laugh. So welcome aboard.
Madam Secretary, I think it is time to announce the next meeting.
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission will be Thursday, July 2nd, 2009.
Thank you very much. We stand adjourned.
If I could have everyone's attention, please. Could I have your attention, please? We're going to proceed with the news conference, and today the post-agenda news conference will be conducted by the chairman and the commissioners. Oh. If the press could please come on up. If I could have everyone's attention, please. The chairman and the commissioners will be conducting the post-agenda news conference immediately. So people are welcome to sit in the back and listen or take your conversations to the hallway. We'd like to commence the press conference. If the reporters would please come up. I also, as the chairman had indicated earlier, we have invited reporters from out of town who are interested in following the DTV transition to watch the meeting online, and also we've given them an opportunity to submit questions if they choose to that could be posed at the press conference. Mark Wigfield from the FCC press staff is going to be monitoring those questions. Mark Wigfield will be monitoring the out-of-town press questions if they come in. And again, that email for any reporters who are listening is, the email is dtvcountdown@fcc.gov. Mark will let me know if there are any such questions that come in. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and proceed. You may direct your questions to the chairman or any of the commissioners, or they all will feel free to jump in on any question. Please identify your name and affiliation for the benefit of the people who are watching this on the web. So, who would like to ask the first question?
Bill.
Other questions?
You all have name tags.
Yeah. Dawn? Fawn, I meant Dawn, excuse me.
I'm Fawn, for those of you who don't know, Fawn Johnson with Dow Jones. Question on the 35 stations that will go dark after June 12th. Do we know who they are, what company, especially the one that is owned, that is going to bankruptcy, which company that is, any detail about those?
I'm sure we know that. I don't personally know that. Who was going to know that?
Somebody must know.
Eloise is there. All right.
Yes, we do have that information, and actually some of it is indicated on our master list, but I think for everybody's convenience, what we're going to be doing is posting a full list of the 35.
I don't think we need to go through it here.
No, we're not going to go through it here. I just want to let you know that we will be posting that so that you'll be able to see that.
And you said there was 18 of those stations are owned by a single company going into bankruptcy, and the rest are going dark because of technical reasons?
18 of them have financial reasons. I believe 17 of those are one particular company. 16 of them are construction issues that will be resolved, I believe, by the end of the year. Some of them a lot sooner. And one of them has a construction permit pending with us that we're looking at because there's an issue that needs to be resolved.
Matthew Lassar, ArsTechnica.com. Puerto Rico has a very large number of analog viewers. I think the last stat I checked was half the households. How's it going there?
Jonathan, you've been there?
I've been down to Puerto Rico, and they've made huge strides. We have a wonderful person down there who's done a lot of good work, but they had the farthest to go, and I'm afraid that there still are a large number of people that are unprepared in Puerto Rico, despite our best efforts. It was 50% over the air at the beginning of the transition, which was the highest in the United States. And so even though we've cut that down considerably, just as the rest of the country, when we cut in half the backlog from 7 to 3, there it's went from 50 to 25. The number now, I think, is still unacceptably high. There's still a lot of people that aren't prepared. The broadcasters in Puerto Rico have really done everything they can. Everybody's been informed that's watching television in Puerto Rico that this is coming. I understand there are enough boxes on the island. One of the concerns we had early on was whether there would be enough boxes. It takes a little longer to get them there. There seems to be an adequate supply. There's adequate information. People are unfortunately waiting, some of them to the last minute, as they are everywhere else. But the problem is in Puerto Rico, when the same proportion of people that are unprepared wait, it's a much larger number overall because they started at 50%. So we have a bit of a challenge here. I think it's going to be perhaps more disruptive in Puerto Rico than almost anywhere else in the country because of the large number of over-the-air. And so but we have resources on the ground to deal with that. It's going to be a little bit messy, and I'm hopeful that that we can, over time, deal with that over the weeks following the transition.
Did you have a number of the current unpreparedness number? Did you? Do
we have that Nielsen number for Puerto Rico? We don't have it. We can try to get back. Can we try to get back to him on that?
We can get back to you on it. Eloise doesn't have it right here. Next, Paul?
Paul Kirby with TR Daily. Mr. Chairman, have you gotten any sense, I know Mr. McDowell was talking about when will Commerce approve the other $25 million. The request was made yesterday. Have you gotten any sense, I guess, from Commerce or NTIA when they will likely get back to you all?
No, obviously we're hoping it will be soon. I'm fairly confident that things are on track. I don't see a huge problem here to be dealt with, but I'm going to be doing everything I can to make sure that that's expedited. Okay. Do we have any question online?
Yeah, we have one right now from John Egerton of Broadcasting and Cable. He says, one group says that lots of the converter boxes won't be able to get the DTV signal because of propagation problems that require rooftop antennas, calling that a, quote, fatal flaw in the transition. How do you respond?
I don't know that I heard it quite that way with generic boxes being singled out for that.
I think what he means is that that there's a problem with propagation of the digital signal.
Well, there's no question about that. That's why I was at pains to discuss that during the presentation, during the questions both. I think this is an area where the Commission really needs to conduct itself with great candor. There are problems. I think the witnesses made that clear, Mr. Donovan and others today. There are going to be some cases where people are going to lose signals through perhaps no fault of their own. Now, maybe they're in fringe areas, or maybe they're in areas that are outside of the market itself, outside of the DMA, but they're still going to be inconvenienced and less than pleased about that. There might be some who lose that signal who are right in the middle of the market. We're going to find that out. That's why I was saying if we had the kind of effort on this, you'd have to go back, a couple of years on something like this to start testing these things and make sure the broadcasters and everybody was coordinated and do it in a transition phase like I had recommended, so you could test this out. So we're hoping it's not going to be a major problem, but people are going to need to understand, as the witnesses said, that this is a sensitive transition. We're dealing with sensitive technology here. All of the kinks are not going to be worked out. We probably could delay this for 2 more years, and you're still going to have some of these things that are not going to be worked out because they're just going to take some time. And the commission sat for too long on distributed transmission systems and all the rest. So it's catch-up ball, and we're all just going to have to be a little bit patient. I'm hoping by and large it's going to be a win for most consumers. I think it will be a win for most consumers. They'll get more free over-the-air broadcast, better picture, and all of that. More people will be happy probably than will be inconvenienced, but we'll be hearing from the inconvenienced, I'm sure.
You're not to minimize the problem, but certainly many people are going to lose signals, but more are going to gain signals that they didn't have. One of the things we can't emphasize enough is, as the chairman said, we're not going to hear from the people that get signals they didn't previously get or get much sharper picture where they previously had a very weak one. But under our analysis, there are going to be more people that are going to benefit from getting stations that are going to lose them. Of course, we're going to hear from the people that lose them, but overall the public interest is served not only because of the improved quality picture and everything else, but the return of the spectrum that we were able to use for public safety and for meeting the demand for wireless broadband.
How big a problem will you have if you don't receive the $10 million from the Commerce Department to help with the call-in centers?
Well, it's impossible to precisely predict that because we don't know all of the problems that are going to occur. But as I said in my remarks during the course of the meeting today, I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. It's very, very easy for me to envision a scenario where we would be unprepared if we don't have that money and the calls really start coming in, not just Friday, but people get back from a long weekend on Monday and Tuesday or Wednesday, and we don't have a sufficient number of operators to take the calls and answer the questions, and there's going to be great consumer dissatisfaction and the potential for considerable backlash. So we don't need to take that risk. The money has been provided by the Congress. This is a high priority for the utilization of that money. It's, as Rob said, I think it's the lifeline. The last lifeline for people is that call center, and we've got to make sure it's up and running well. Rob, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think it's absolutely vital that we get that money to fund the call center, and if there is a concern at the Department of Commerce, and I don't know that there is, but if there is a concern at the Department of Commerce regarding how to fund that, they can cut back the coupon program to make only over-the-air households eligible for coupons, and that would result in a big net cost savings. But that $10 million, I think, is squarely within the intent of the statute, within Congress's intent for community outreach and community and consumer education.
And I might point out, under the terms of the way things are, that if we don't need that money, we'll be able to, and don't need that level of calls, we can ramp down and won't have to spend that money. So it's not that we're saying, give us $10 million and we're going to definitely spend it all, or it's not we're going to keep 4,000 operators online from here to eternity or anything like that. It's that we're going to try to respond to the needs of the moment, the needs of the hour, and if we don't need those resources, then we will cut back those resources. Okay. That just strikes me as sound good management, kind of 101.
Cheryl, you had a question, and then Jonathan.
Okay, so June 12th is a Friday, and so a lot of this fallout's going to be over the weekend. Was that on purpose that the Friday date was picked? And will that cause any problems? And what are you guys doing over that weekend?
It's my birthday on the 13th, by the way.
We'll be here on the 12th. We'll be here, I'm sure, on the 13th and available, and then we'll just have to see the measure of the problem, the magnitude of the problem. What was the first part?
What was a Friday picked on purpose?
Well,
Was there any?
we did not set that date. Congress established that date. But I think looking at it, it's it's not a bad date. Somebody can have a problem with any day of the week. So.
But the call center will be open and
Oh,
on Saturday.
absolutely, absolutely.
And we'll be in here, Mr. Chairman, could I ask you now to keep the air conditioning on over the weekend?
We're already doing that.
Look how, see what a great administrator he is.
Jonathan?
I do have a question for the commissioners, but perhaps while I'm asking that, I did have a follow-up for Eloise, if you're able to come back. For all the commissioners, how concerned are you that essentially 18 stations, I don't know if they're handing in their licenses, will not be broadcasting? It will no longer be a primary signal. It had been a concern for some time, both in Canada and the U.S., that some TV stations would stop broadcasting altogether, and it seems like essentially what we're seeing. So how concerned are each of you about that?
Well, I'm concerned whenever any broadcast station goes dark or shuts its operations down in terms of localism and diversity and competition that you heard me talk about till I'm blue in the face, the disappearance of another newsroom or whatever. That's a net loss for the American people, no question about it.
I'm very concerned as well. I think it's almost a perfect storm for broadcasting industry. I mean, this is an unprecedented downturn in advertising revenue due to a number of different trends in the economy, all coming together at the same time as the costs of the digital conversion. And this is one of the tragic consequences for the viewers of those stations, that they're going to lose those signals. I think it's very unfortunate. I'm not sure it's the last we're going to hear of broadcasters shutting down, given the difficulty in the industry, unless this economy turns around pretty quickly.
I'm very concerned. I think it's actually just the beginning of what we might be hearing, some more bad news coming over the horizon. If you think that many broadcasters rely on auto dealers for about 30% of their ad revenue, and now we have thousands of auto dealers being shuttered all across the country, I think this is going to cause a new wave of pain for broadcasters all across the country. So hopefully going forward, the Commission will take the extreme economic duress being experienced by broadcasters into consideration as it makes new policy.
And Jonathan, you had one more?
Sure. Just a couple housekeeping questions for Eloise. You mentioned a master list. What is that, and when will that be released?
Sorry, that's an internal term, but there's a list on the website that provides, it's a spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet that provides information about the stations, all the stations, when they're transitioning, for example, what time of day they're transitioning. I know we could follow up and give you the exact link to it, but you can get it from the first page of dtv.gov or by going into the listings for the stations. So I apologize. Internally, we just refer to that as the master list. But what I was saying was that to make it convenient for everyone, I think we are planning on posting a separate sheet that lists the 35 stations.
Okay, and can you tell us, you don't need to go through the markets, but what is the broadcast chain? You said that it's 17 of these 18 stations. There's a couple broadcast chains, obviously, in bankruptcy. So which chain is that? It's Tribune, Ion.
Equity. It's a company called Equity.
Equity Media?
That owns the 17 of the 18 stations. But I will say, if I may, that several of the stations that I was speaking about earlier that are going to be using another station's multicast are of these stations. So whether or not they're all going to be permanently dark is something we don't know at the moment. And it is something that everybody is working on and looking at very closely because of the concerns that the commissioners have expressed.
So what these 18 stations, 17 of which are owned by Equity Media, have told the commission is they will no longer broadcast. That is, they will no longer transmit from their antenna after the 12th. Is that right? They're not actually turning in their broadcast license?
My understanding is that they don't have a digital facility built. I'm sorry, I couldn't answer the question about their license status at this moment.
Let's take one more from the group here and one more on the internet, and then I think we're going to have to go, and we can
I think we
leave.
have no other questions online.
Okay, my
So
goodness.
Is there any last question?
I have more.
No, Jonathan, you can go.
Going once, going twice?
Sure. No one else.
I have a buyer.
Last question.
We don't necessarily know who will be on the dais, but do we know what the topic of the next meeting will be?
No, we don't. We have not announced that.
Will
Okay.
it not? Will it not be like a post-mortem on DTV?
We have not announced what the docket will be.
Thank you.
Follow up to that question. What happens if, say, the Senate gets its act together and manages to confirm a couple of people, including Mr. McDowell, before the July recess? Does that mean that even with a couple of days preparation, that the new commissioner will be chairing the next meeting? Is that what's...
I should rather imagine that would be an item for consultation between the outgoing and the incoming commissions.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. This concludes the press conference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Thank you, David.